And we are, I can't tell, but I think we're live. It's a delay, of course, but I think we up here.
Okay,
I think we
family.
are in effect. Yes, yes, yes. Peace, peace, y'all.
Peace.
Peace. Baragani, Islam, Salam, Etepu, Rahu Bats. It's the brothers back again, the dynamic duo back again.
Back
Got
again
my,
in the building.
got, yep, got my brother King El Bay back in the building. We are back at it tonight for another show. Tonight we're going to be talking about the application of law, and going to break down what does that mean and things of that nature. All right. So before we get into any of that, right? Please check out all my books on Amazon, starting with the Moorish treaties. We got the birth about the birth certificate, whatever, man. We got the Treaty Two, Guide to Marriage. So I got a few books out there. Please check them out, and also check out indigenousservices.web.com, which is for the ticker. Check that out. It's the one-stop shop for your Moorish needs. All right. So with that being said, my brother, what's going on with you, man?
What's
Take the
up?
floor.
What's up, family? Also, let me put some information out there on.
I can't hear you, man.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah. I can't hear you.
So,
Thought you was
so
going out.
I want to
And
share the screen on my books. If you can share the screen.
I got you. Yes, sir. It should be popping up in a minute. I got this delay going. There you go. It should pop up now. Yes, sir. There you go.
So the book, you can get it on Kindle or you can buy the book. They got it on Kindle, but I'm about to redo this book. Um, it, it was just configuring the configuration, but the book has good information. It's the doctrine of law sovereignty, how to reclaim sovereignty, and it takes you to this step. And child support. Everybody who have a child support issues, we're going to talk about child support. So we're going to start tonight, and we're going to talk about applications. How do applications affect you, right? What are you applying for? So when you come into the United States, your mama applied for a birth certificate. Um, through these applications or discernment of rights. So you apply for these things, right? You apply for these
Right.
things. Now, the thing in which you apply for determines the rights that you receive. So if you're a U.S. citizen, as it relates to the application, then we have to look at how everything is broken down in the instrument itself, like the Constitution. Are United States citizens really is really United States citizens in part and partial to the Constitution?
Hmm. Yeah. This is gonna be interesting because me and him really been trying to get into this, man. So let's get into this, man. The U.S. citizenship and all that, man.
So,
Um,
well, let's pull up the 14th Amendment and let's look at the construction of language associated with the 14th Amendment. So I'm about to pull up the U.S. Constitution, and then we're going to look at how all of this stuff works in context as it relates to the PDF. So, and then, I'm going to give my synopsis and Chief can give his. And we can look at this and, make a discernment and analyze how do we post to look at this on this broadcast. So I want to bring up the 13th Amendment. I mean the 14th Amendment. Uh, okay. So
Yes,
uh,
sir. Let's get it.
let's get it. So
I say, let's get it.
I'm sharing the screen. Can we share the screen?
Yeah, you can share the screen.
Okay, I'm pull up the 14th Amendment.
I'm popping you up now. All right. Booyah. Okay, you up. Should
So
be up.
we're gonna talk about um, what we're gonna talk about applications. This because this is an application. So what they do is they set up institutions to handle certain portions of contractual matters, and this instrument is what due process stand on. You have what you have is substantive due process, and then you have procedural. Substantive due process is what how the rights are created. Were they created from contract? Or they God given rights? What are you saying that is the instrument that you're standing on that creates the rights? What is the contract in itself that create the right? And then you have to look at the procedure is the institution that holds the variations of procedures in which to go about conducting with this particular application. Do that make sense? So
If
when
y'all
we
understand that, put a one in the building. If y'all understand it, put a one in the chat.
when we looking at everything law is put into categories. So whatever you apply for, right? You got to understand that's the category of law that you the context in which you're deriving for. So if you apply for a driver's license, you get the rights associated with a driver's license. If you apply for a birth certificate, and certain rights are construed within that application, in which may trigger other rights and benefits associated with that application of law.
All right,
So,
now, so give us an example of exactly what you're saying. So you got a driver's license
right,
and you got an application.
right.
So now,
So according to the application itself, you're applying for it. They ask you questions. Are you a U.S. citizen? Are you a resident of the state? All of these things are elements in the contract to determine if you can get these rights or benefits. Because they'll tell you, oh, you are eligible. You have eligibility based upon what you put in this application, determine what you're eligible for. Are you able to receive these rights and benefits? And whatever you say qualifies um, if you determine to get those benefits. And they're going to ask you for proof of claim. They're going to ask you for certain things to establish proof of claim. So you're going to have what? Birth certificate, social security number. Those are proofs of claim. Those are documents
right?
um, they're instituted by those particular institutions that have the government or delegation of authority to issue and assign you those instruments. So they want to see proof, and we have to look at everything from an application standpoint to understand the degrees and elements necessary to establish a proof of claim in order to say, do you have jurisdiction or is the party acting outside of the jurisdiction? Do they have the legal authority to deal with this capacity? You see what I'm saying? So, like, you wouldn't go to the BMV to go get a birth certificate because they don't have the delegation of authority to issue a birth certificate. You will have to go to the proper institution and fill out the document, answer all the questions, and check off the right information for them to say, okay, you can receive this document. It's a qualifier. So everything has to be qualified. Law has to be qualified. So there are the best kind of evidence is documented evidence. So when we start looking at these things, we have to understand what we're doing and what we're applying for so we can understand the remedy that's associated with the application. So when we look at uh, the first section of Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. And we're talking about the corporate war status, which when the United States went into an industrial complex, what, what were they talking about? They used to say, they said all persons born. So when they say persons born, how do you associate this with this? So we got to understand, right, the context of everything that's going on. So let's go to, let me see if I still got it up. Let me go here. Let me pull up. Let me see if I still got the code. Let me see if I still
Oh,
pull it.
you didn't jumped away from that 14th Amendment so fast.
Now I'm associate this with the 14th Amendment. Uh,
Okay.
IRS. It's an IRS code. Uh, this is
You got
this.
look at you. You got too much stuff up there, man. Too much sauce.
I know.
You got too many tabs.
I'm
I
talking
ain't know
about.
you had that many tabs.
So when we talk about proof of claim, right? It says proof of
Okay.
claim. A proof of claim is a written statement setting forth a creditor's claim. A proof of claim shall conform substantially to the appropriate official form. So they talk about the official form. What is the official form? Whatever the institution assigns you, that's the form that you use to fill out the application to get the form to show the proof. So I want to go to. I'm trying to figure out the code that I had. I had the code pulled up earlier.
Okay.
I'm
Hey,
just
y'all, smash that like button and please subscribe and hit the
let's go
notification
to
so
the.
y'all can get all these other videos.
I
Let's
want to
go.
go. I want to go
Let's
to the
go.
form. I might have closed it out. So let me see if I can pull it up though. Let me see. I can't remember the exact code. I was looking at it because I got so many things wrote down. So let's look up the IRS code. So let me go here. Let's go here. IRS codes. IRS code. Um, construe uh, strictly, strictly construe individuals.
Let's see. Because I want to get back to that 14th. Me and the
I'm,
brother, we going back and forth.
I'm finna get to that. So
Yeah.
let me see
Yeah.
if I.
You better come with it.
I'm gonna
You better
come.
come with it, y'all, because we gonna go at it.
Yeah, we're gonna
Cause
go
he
at.
Yeah, he better come with this sauce, man. Me and Ken about to go at it.
I'm trying to see. This ain't the statue. Well, let me. I gotta pull it up. Don't worry about it. I'll find it. Um,
Cause I'm trying, cause I'm trying to see what your point is
okay,
about the 14th.
so with the 14th Amendment, so it says all persons born. So so when we talk about the United States is a corporation. They tell you that it's a U.S. corporation under their statutes. So the only way that you can be, and they tell you that it's an instrumentality. The only way you can be born literally in the United States is through a contract, through a form. And what is the form? That you it says instead of it saying all person born, it should say all persons formed because we only dealing with civil rights, corporate politics. So you can't if you in the United States, the only way that you can be born in the United States if they formed you a corporation. And that's where the straw man come in with the all caps name. And they assigned you what they call a juristic person. So let's look at the term juristic,
Okay.
juristic
A juristic person.
person,
Juristic person.
juristic person. Judical person. A judical person is a non-human legal person that is not a single natural person, but an organization recognized by law as a fiction person, such as a corporation, government agency, non-government organization, or international organization. But they also call them juristic persons. So, like it says right here, juristic person. A legal person is one in which law attributes legal personalities. So hold on, let's juristic. Let's go to. Let me see. Let me go here. Let me go to. Let's look at.
Okay.
It's not. I don't know why it won't. Sometimes it say juristic person, and it's giving me images.
Yes, sir.
I want juristic person.
I got you.
So,
You
but
got it. Okay. You got it on images instead of right. Go back to all. Peace
then,
to Sister Phyllis too. By the way, you see.
so it says of or relating to a jurist or jurisprudence. This is a of relating to or recognized in law, jurisdictionally. So a juristic person is a person that's recognized in law. So when we talk about law, land, air, and water, we're dealing in real estate. So let's go to allodial titles. So we all can agree that the United States is a corporation because that's what they tell you they are. They're a corporation. They they operating as a de facto government. They act in allodial title. So when we talk about allodial title, uh, when you're dealing in law, you only can deal in law associated with treaties because only nations can cede lands to other nations. So you only can deal in that's the highest form of law when it comes down to rights associated to allodial titleship. So allodial title constitutes ownership of real property, land, buildings, and fixtures that is independent of any superior landlord. Allodial title is related to the concept of land held in allodium, or land ownership by occupancy and the defense of land. So they're occupants. And we're gonna get into some other terms as it relates to the things that they're calling you. But I want to go over this 14th Amendment. So we know the United States is a corporation, and I want to pull up all the codes, but I have to go through my book and go through all of that. And we ain't got time for all that. But we know it's a corporation, so instead of using the word born, we're going to say form. And then we're going to say or naturalized. What is the naturalization process? What is the naturalization process? So you have that's a contract, right? You have to pledge your allegiance, have to come up with an oath, and do all of that. And so when we're talking about the allodial title, and we're talking about them being an occupant, and we're looking at the 14th Amendment. So now, how do a person naturalize? That's through an application. How do a person be born in the United States? That's through an application. You have to apply for these things. All of these things are done through an application. And then it says, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. It says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, right? And subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state where they reside. So we say, what are the citizens of the United States? They're corporations. The only thing that is citizenry in the United States is corporations. And their citizenry, this is a federal directive. This is called a federal directive. This is a direct delegation from the Constitution that is a federal statute. This can be considered a federal statute. So it's a command onto the states. This is where the states derive their authority. This is how corporations can be citizens of the United States in the capacity of citizenship through this through the strict construction of this language in which they identify the elements necessary to be a citizen. Then it says, no state shall make or enforce any law that shall abridge the privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States. So this is a prohibition. This is an act of prohibition telling the states you cannot abridge any rights that's afforded to a corporation in the United States and or in any of its immunities. So you don't have the right to do any of that, state. You don't have the right to do that. So this is one of the problems that's going on. It says no state. So a lot of us is doing what? We're applying what? We're going to the state to do what? Register our corporations, right? So now they give the state jurisdiction. So let's look at uh, United States Code.
Yeah, I hear you breaking this down. The
Corporation,
fact that being born and naturalized is two different forms of an application.
right? So here you go. This is this is a federal statute dealing in registration of a corporation. No person shall act as an agent of a foreign principal unless he file with the Attorney General a true copy of a complete registration statement and supplements thereto as required by subsection A-B of this section, unless he is exempt from registration under the provision of the subchapter. So, what are they telling you? You're supposed to go to the United States and register your corporation if you're trying to enforce this application. Then you can go
Okay,
to the state,
so
right? You can
right.
go to like you can go to Ohio, right? Secretary of State.
So the sister had a question. She said, "Are you saying all people are corporations, no matter race?"
No matter race. It depends on what you apply for, determine your status. Everybody is not this. Listen, everybody is not equal in this jurisdiction. Some people are looked at a certain way and have human rights. Other people are not looked at in a certain way and have certain human rights based upon the application in which they process through. This is where due process of law come in. You apply for this, so the process in which the application in which you apply for determine the rights that you receive. Do that make sense, sister?
Yeah. Um, we just looking for feedback to make sure that everybody understand.
So we're gonna go to the Ohio Secretary of State, right? And we're gonna look at the Ohio Secretary of State. And I want y'all to look at this.
She said, "Does it make sense?" She said, "No, it." She said it didn't make sense to her, man.
She gotta give me a split. What doesn't make sense? She got to give me something that I can analyze.
I mean, she was. I mean, what you just said. You were saying something in regards to like how to process the application according to whatever you apply to. You
Right,
get those rights according to the
right,
contract. You saying right?
yeah.
You might have yeah.
The contract make the law. So we're dealing in contract law. So when you go here, right, and you file for LLC, right, they tell you, they give you the things, right. You can file for an LLC under this file
Right,
online forms and stuff like this. Now, what happens? Now you can file your corporation here. Now the state, you're formed in the state, right?
right.
Right? So now the state got jurisdiction, right? But
Check, check.
so let's say you don't file nothing with the state. And it says no state shall
Okay.
make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. That means that
Uh-huh.
you are a federal citizen. And what makes you a federal citizen? You are a state and federal citizen, but the states don't have the right to enforce any laws that infringe upon you. So what is the straw man as it relates to your corporate status? It's a state citizen, but it's also, right, a 14th Amendment corporation, your name in all caps, and the state cannot abridge any rights.
I got
So
you.
you don't even supposed to be dealing in the state filing, because once you file with the state, right,
You giving them jurisdiction.
you're giving them jurisdiction. So what did they tell you right here? Registration statement. Did anybody go to the attorney general and registrate their stuff as a foreign principal, or gave a registration statement? The term registration statement means a registration statement required to be filed with the attorney general under section 6112 of this title, and any supplements thereto required to be filed under this section 612B of this title includes all documents and papers required to be filed therewith, or any amendatory thereof, or supplements thereto, whether attached to thereto or incorporated therein by reference. Anybody did this? Have anybody went to the secretary? Have went to the attorney general, the United States Attorney General office, and filed this? Registered
Okay.
name, principal business address. Have anybody done this? No. What they do is they go to the state and they do it all on the state level. Now, now you give the state what they call register. Now you get to do everything within the state. Now you're doing business within the state. When you supposed to come through the federal government, and they telling you what to do based upon an application of law. Status of registered. Hold on. They talk about status. Status of registration. If an individual nationality, hold on, let's go back. Two, status of registry. If an individual nationality, if a partnership name, resident address, and nationality of each partner, and true and complete, a copy of the articles of corporation, of corp or co-partnership, if an association or corporation organized, or any other combination of individuals, the name, resident address, and other nationalities of each director and officer of each person performing the function of the director or officer, or a true complete copy of their charter,
Okay.
articles of incorporation, association, constitution, and bylaws, and amendments. Do it say do anything in here tell you to go to the state and file it?
No.
Don't say nothing about the state. They telling you This is a federal statute. This is a United States code. It don't say nothing about the state. Who is doing this part? Based upon the application that most Moors are filing this stuff within the state. State, you giving the state complete jurisdiction. Now they can say we have original jurisdiction because you formed under this. When you was automatically given this under the 14th Amendment through the application, through the construction of language.
Mm.
Nobody is doing that. Then it says,
No.
nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. So I want you to understand this. These are two different things. So now we want to look at the language very and construe this language very strict. It says, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. It says no person.
Right.
So when we talk about persons, you automatically qualify as a resident, but they don't have original jurisdiction. You still a 14th Amendment citizen by what? Federal statute. When you go
Mm.
file a corporate, when you go file something within the state, they do what? They now you they get jurisdiction because you're a resident. They say that you're a resident because you are automatically a resident under this construction language. But I want you to listen to
Thank
this.
you.
Nor deny
Yeah,
to
I'm
any
listening.
person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. Nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. So first we got to determine, is you in the jurisdiction or out of the jurisdiction? What makes
Ah,
you in the jurisdiction, right?
right. What?
It's
So,
based upon it's all based upon your application. Your mama do what? Sign up for a birth certificate through what? The state. Have to go through the state.
right.
But let me ask you this. Do it tell you in this construction of the 14th Amendment to apply through the state?
No, not to my knowledge.
So if it's not telling you, why are we doing it?
Because could it be a Ninth or 10th Amendment issue?
We're talking about the 14th Amendment. That it could be a knife or two, but we're strictly construing the 14th Amendment and its application as it relates to the 14th Amendment citizenry. So we're stuck here. We're arguing the elements of this and how it applies, how to look at the application. Because when we look in the when we look at the word apply, we talk about application. How do we apply to you?
Okay. Right. Okay. So, sister had a question. She said, "Well, when you file with the state, does it cancel out your federal status?"
No, it's a conjunction. You gave the state jurisdiction through your application.
But you still have your federal status.
You're going to maintain your federal status, but because you're going to go to who? So let's look at this. You go get your birth certificate and then you go where? To the Social Security Administration. In relationship to the state and the federal government, is the Social Security Administration or it's a state or federal institution?
You say Social Security,
Yeah, the administration. The S when we go
federal?
down, it's a federal. So now you went through a state process and then went through a federal process to get what? You applied for two different things. You applied for a birth certificate through the state, and then you apply for a social security number on the the Social Security Administration,
Federal.
federal.
Right, but even with the birth certificate,
I'm trying-
it goes to the federal level.
Yeah, but it's processed through the state first. It's a state process. That's why when we talk about due process of law, we're talking about who is processing the application and the rights afforded
Okay,
by the process, right? Who get to process a Social Security claim other than Social Security? Nobody. We talking about due process of law. So let me see. I'm trying to. Let me see if I can pull up
I
the state.
can't hear you. What you say?
Then I thought you were talking to me because I asked how the chicken wing tastes, and I thought you said
Oh, that was good. I'm on the.
Let
okay.
me pull up this code real quick.
I was just trying to make sure you ain't tell me.
20. Here you go. So when we start talking about persons under 26 USC 7701 definition, it says when used in this title where not otherwise distinctly expressed or manifestly incorporated with the intent thereof, the term person shall be construed to mean an individual, a trust, an estate, a corporation, a partnership, association, or a company or corporation. Corporation includes association, joint stock companies, insurance. So now let's look at individuals. So now you guys know when we're talking about person, this is what they're talking about on a federal level to mean include these things. So what is a individual on the federal level? Once you understand the once you understand the right terms, so I want to go to, let me see, it pulled that back up. Let's see what it says. Person.
Y'all just getting on here. Smash the like button. Please smash that like button.
So in this title, okay, so we got to understand what is an individual as it relates to construed. I got construed to mean. So and now we got to understand of what is a corporation. So we know that a corporation is we know that a person is an individual, trust, a state, partnership, association, company, or corporation and partnership. So what do
Check.
this mean as it relates to persons, as it relates to individual? What is it? So now we got to go to persons. Let's go here. So now let's go to individual. Once again, I'm gonna see if I can pull this up, and let's go to United States codes because it's under there. We got to find out what is an individual and what is construed to mean. So we got to understand what they mean by. Now we're going back to here under the codes. I'm trying to figure out what it means. Internal Revenue Code.
Yeah, you talking about in reference? Okay, yeah, in reference IRS.
It keep going here. I'm trying to see um stru- I'm I'm gonna have to. I have to see. That's why I'm saying I have to sometimes go on my black book and pull out the exact term as it relates to an individual. It says an individual shall cease to be treated as a lawful permanent as resident of the United States if such individual commits to be treated as a resident of a foreign country under the provision of a tax treaty between the United States and a foreign country does not waive the benefits of such treaty application. Right?
Mm, mm,
Let
I
me see.
see. I see.
So hold on, let's go down to there. I see. I hate going through there. It says so when we talk
Yeah,
about this, when we say as a
we
resident,
can correct.
so it says an individual shall cease to be treated as a lawful permanent resident of the United States if such individual
Right,
committed to be treated as a resident of a foreign country under the provision of a tax treaty between the United States and the foreign country, and it does not waive the benefits of such applicable of such treaty applicable to, right? So
right,
so if you become, they let you know if you become a permanent resident, even under you don't waive your your treaty rights, and it's talking about what application.
exactly. I see what you're
So
saying.
so when we start talking about application, we got to know what what is we applying for to determine what we're going to get out the deal. So you get what you ask for.
Indeed,
So let me see if I can look up Black's laws and we can look up that because I think
but
um
that's what this is. Black law style. This is
so let
black law style.
so
For
let me
y'all to
go
understand,
here.
that's the black laws is the go-to book for our legal information. We also got a free black laws book. I think it's the fourth edition on if you go to indigenousservices.webs.com, you can get a free download.
So let's look up individual and we're going to talk about. I'm gonna come back to certain documents and contracts and how to look back at this, right? So I'm breaking down. This is the 14th Amendment. This is why when you get with us, you get a stew of information. You know, I'm a steward at this. You know, me and Chief, we go back and forth. We bounce off stuff. We argue. We debate. We make sure when we get done doing what we doing, we remove all the scabs. We remove all the doubt. So we're going to come up with the best uh, 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 possibility to
Right,
ensure the integrity of what we're doing.
right.
Right?
Because I'm letting you get this off, so you know I can go into this and tear this down.
Yeah, yeah. We finna. I'm gonna let
I'm,
you. I'm gonna come. I'm gonna let you get your turn in a few minutes, and I'm just
nah,
finna.
go ahead. I'm patient, man. Do your thing. I'm just
So
gonna
we want to
make some
look at the
questions.
term individual. Individual. We want to look at the word individual. So let's break this down. This word. So let's say individual as a noun. This term denotes a single person as distinguished from a group or class, and also very commonly a private or natural person as distinguished from a partnership. corporation, or association. But it is said that the restrictive signification is not necessarily inherited in the word, the word play, but it's said that the strict restrictive signification is not necessarily inherited in the word, and that it may, in proper cases, include artificial persons.
Facts. Look, Ohio,
You see what I'm
state
saying?
versus
The state
right.
board.
That's in Ohio.
So when we look at, so this is, they tell you, but it said that in the restrictive signification, it's not necessarily inherited in the word, and that it may, in proper cases, include artificial person. As an objective individual means pertaining or belonging to or characteristic of one single person, either in opposition to a firm, association, or corporation. What they mean? Either of opposition to a firm. What is a firm? Association or corporation are considered in his relationship there too. So if we know that the United States is a corporation,
Right.
you have what they call
Right.
same same kind doctrine.
And you know when they say artificial person, when they say artificial person, they could also be like they could take that to an AI. You think like when AI or robots as an individual, that's an artificial person.
Now, uh, he just the he just them generous. In Latin phrase means of the same kind. The statutory and constitutional construction principle of e justice jura states that where general words or phrases follow a number of a specific word or phrase, the general word are specifically construed as limited and apply only to the person or thing of the same kind or class as those expressly mentioned. For example, if the law refers to an automobile, truck, tractor, motorcycle, and other motor powered vehicles, a court might use in justum generis to hold that such vehicle would not include airplanes because the list include only land-based transactions. So, if the IRS only deals in corporations, and they construe you, if the United States construe you to be a corporation, they can't make you out to be, because they only can deal with you in according to the same kind, unless it is expressed and documented and shows a difference, right? So let's continue. Let's go back. So we're gonna go up to this word.
You going in, family.
I'm gonna show it.
You going in. This is
So, so this is
this is
why
Black Laws.
I'm going into the contract language. This is why we talk about, let's see the contract, substantive due process. This is where I always come off at. This is my territory. When we start dealing in law and application, right? This is what we do. This is what we do over here, family. They call me Bushead Fred and Young Johnny for a reason. We finna bust some heads. I'm just making a correlation so everybody can see what's going on. Hold on 1 second.
So one of the questions was, is an artificial person also a second class citizen?
Um, is an artificial person a second class citizen? An
Good question.
artificial person is just what it is. It has civil rights. The application for um, um. So let's hold on. Let me.
So let me ask you this then. I mean, somebody who's got civil rights, isn't that like a second class? Because your first rights is human rights, right?
Right. But that don't mean that you're not a protected class. Also, they have protected classes in the jurisdiction under civil rights. You can be a protected class, like religion, consumer protections. There are variations. The problem is that we don't know how to apply the proper protected class to ensure that those protected rights don't get stripped.
Right.
So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a second class. It's about the proposition of law in which you apply for and which you need to stand on a degree based upon that specific jurisdiction. So it just, like I said, it's about the application. So let's go to the term impossibility.
Let's look it up too. Let me
Can you
look it
see
up.
this?
What's that?
Impossibility. Impossibility that which in the Constitution, in the course of nature, or the law, no man can do or perform. I want you to look at this impossibility of contract. So some of these contracts are an impossibility. Nobody is arguing certain things on these grounds of the application. They're asking you certain things that you are not aware of, and it's make it impossible for you to perform due to your ignorance of the application and your rights associated with the contract. So, impossibility of performance of a contract, absolving party from liability for non-performance, meaning not only strict impossibility, but impracticable the impracticability because of extreme and unreasonable difficulty, expense, injury, or loss involved.
So, what is? Well, how would you argue that? How would you argue that to your point?
The argument would be that the things that they assign to you are impossible based upon the construction and language, based upon the application in the substantive due process of law that they haven't. First of all, you got to understand contract law is that it's unconscionable. Secondly, as a child, you could never contract. um, and that you they put you in a category of something that you could never be a part of because they haven't met the federal threshold in order for you to be a part of their organization, a part of their society as a corporation. There are certain things that have to be done. For example, once again, let's go back. Federal statement. No person shall act as an agent of a foreign principal unless he has filed with the Attorney General a true copy of a complete registration statement and supplement thereto required by a subsection A and B, unless he is exempt from registration under the provision of subchapter. Okay? What grants you this exemption? So you have to look at all of these different things and understand. So first of all, you can't practice law. You don't have a license. So if you can't practice law, how can you interpret the law? You can't practice it. The only people that can practice and interpret the law is people who have licenses. So it's impossible for you to even construe what's being said because you don't even have the license or permission to construe what's being said. So the only thing this could ever be is for entertainment and for educational purpose only, because you can't practice law.
I hear you. Okay, I hear you, family. I hope y'all understand that. Does that make sense to everybody? I kind of think you started to put it together. Does that make sense to everybody? If they don't put, guys got any questions? Like I said, please smash that like button. And if you got any questions, hopefully we'll be able to answer them. Like we said, we into this black laws. We into the black law style. So we breaking down these things by the definition. So go ahead. So you're trying to. So where you going now? Consumer protections. Okay.
Consumer, that's a protected class. Consumer protection laws safeguard purchasers of goods and services against defective products and deception, fraudulent business practices. Historically, under the common law doctrine of caveat emptor, consumers had very little protection from misleading sales, requiring consumers to inspect all transactions themselves. A modern economic development, developed laws slowly evolved to protect consumers from large corporations and practices like adhesion contracts, which common law fraud did not address. Consumer consumer protection laws is made up of a large patchwork of federal and state governing everything from products like cosmetic and medicine to service like leading practices. The federal government oversees antitrust law and consumer protections through Federal Trade Commission, in which inspect complaints of scams and fraudulent businesses. States use a variety of agencies and statutes to enforce consumer protections, expanding on the federal law in many cases. Consumers face high costs and time barriers to take actions against businesses, resulting in low usage of consumer protections. However, consumer protection laws and actions have steadily increased in the 1970s, and consumer and lawyers' awareness may lead to more active employment of consumer protection laws. So, this is a consumer is a protected class. So let's go to
Right.
the definition of
We talk about that, y'all. We talk about that too in other videos, y'all. So y'all check out some other videos. The sister got a question too, man.
oh,
She's asking, can you see it up there?
hold on, I haven't I had to come back. What she saying?
Okay, you're fine. It says so. The federal and states have constitutions. How can the state override the federal? She says it happens all the time with the law. So what do you have to say about that?
So okay, so it says so federal and state have constitutions, and how can the state override federal? The state can't override federal law because federal the states get their authority from the federal constitution. The constitution give they are creatures of the constitution. States and the federal government, as it relates to the Constitution, are instrumentalities of that document. So the creation cannot override the creator. So they are instruments of that particular constitution in which they derive their authority. So the state constitution.
Okay, so go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So the state can never override the constitution, but you have to understand original jurisdiction. Do the state or the federal have original jurisdiction? Now that's two different things. So original jurisdiction come in is who created the law first, associated with a particular type of uh, crime or a particular type of thing associated with a particular action. For example, let's say something was invented in Ohio. It was registered on a and trademarked and had It's been registered into the state. Now the state is having issues with certain things. Now the state may come up with the law first, right? Now it might be the state might have original jurisdiction over what it claims, and now the feds cannot supersede what the state has uh, have original jurisdiction over. So we got to break down the term original jurisdiction so that Phyllis can go into that original jurisdiction. So,
All right. So why? Now look, but hold on, because you've been going. So a states have their own sovereignty in a sense. They were created as separate sovereign states.
well, they have what they call their own self autonomy. They have a
Okay.
autonomy. They have what they call quasi sovereign. They answer to the federal constitution.
Y'all, I
And
hate that word. I hate that word quasi. That word is whack, man. But
yeah,
go ahead.
so it says original jurisdiction. A court's power to hear and decide a case before an appealing review. A trial court must necessarily have original jurisdiction over types of cases to hear. So when you dealing like let's say with some bank laws, right? And the state may have adopted that statute. The federal government can supersede the state, come in and take the case from the state. They can step in and say, we got jurisdiction because it's originated in the federal statutes. So we got to look at it. So original jurisdiction of a court is laid out under this section provides that one type of disputes between states, the court jurisdiction is not only original, it's exclusive. In other, in other words, if parties cannot settle the matter, no other court but the Supreme Court has authority under the Constitution to take jurisdiction.
I hear you, man.
The
That makes
Supreme
sense.
Court shall have original and exclusive jurisdiction over all controversies between two or more states. The Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction, but not exclusive jurisdiction on all actions, proceedings to ambassadors, other public ministers, councils, and vice councils of foreign states or parties, all controversies between the United States and a state, all actions or proceeding by a state against a citizen of another state or against aliens. So you we got to understand state uh, original jurisdiction or state jurisdiction as it relates to original jurisdiction. So you got to understand this stuff and what you're applying for to determine where do the jurisdiction lie. So we got to go back. Let's go back to the 14th Amendment. All persons born, and I like the word form, or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state where they reside. You got something to add?
Reside.
Reside. So what if you don't reside in the
So residence.
residence? Right.
So reside. Right. Reside a resident. So if you if you are a resident of the state or a resident of that particular city, then that's you fall under that particular jurisdiction. But you say that you don't. That's what I want. Like, how is it that how are we not 14th Amendment citizens by the definition that you just read?
Oh, hold on.
That's that's the $1 million question because you're saying that being born is a corporate statement, and then you're saying naturalized is a corporate application. But based on how it's put together legally, a person born is somebody that comes out of a birth from their mother, and naturalized is someone that comes who is a foreigner who comes to the United States to become a citizen of the United States.
So here we go right here. 19 USC 81, a resident of a zone. Persons allowed to reside in a zone.
Yeah, he ain't
No
answered that yet.
person shall be allowed to reside within the zone except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose residence present is deemed necessary by the board. The rule and regulation for employees
Hold on,
in
let me see what you're
this
saying.
zone.
Hold on, let me see what you got.
So
Trying to
let's
wait to my
get zone.
read that again. Read that again. Read that again.
No person shall be
It
allowed to
says,
reside within the zone except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board.
so when they say persons allowed to reside in zone, what zone are they referring to, or what zone are you trying to say they're referring to? What zone is that?
Foreign trade zone as provided in this chapter. So when we look at
Okay,
the zone and we talk about residents, right? We're talking
so you
about being able to you have to you have to be approved to reside in the United States. You have to be approved.
you have to be you got
The
to be
board
approved
have
to
rules,
be
regulation,
to
and
out in the
policy.
United States based based on this statement right here.
Yeah.
Because this is talking about the federal trade zone, right?
Okay. So
The-
so we can look at federal trade zone,
So
right?
yeah, yeah.
So
So that's what I'm saying.
so, so this is what I'm saying. Don't you do trade and business in your state, and you deal in interstate and intrastate
You might,
commerce?
you might. I'm not sure if everyone. Would you say everybody does trading?
So
And
let's look at interstate commerce versus intrastate commerce. What's the difference? The main difference between interstate and intrastate commerce, it says
right,
the main difference between interstate and intrastate is that intrastate is trade, traffic, or transportation involving crossing of the state border boundaries, whereas interstate commerce is trade, traffic, or transportation involving crossing within a single state.
right, right.
So,
You
so when you deal
so
in
you
interest,
might ship one thing to one. You might no hold on. It's that's basically like you shipping one thing from one area to another. You might have in the same city. You might have a truck that delivers to all these different businesses in that area.
right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then interstate is where you
It's
cross
going across the borders. You crossing state borders.
borders, right? So you got to understand a lot of companies, right? Even though it might be a company, right, that's in that state, but their headquarters may be in another state, and they may manufacture products in another state that ship to that state.
Right? I mean, they might as a company, but
Yeah,
as a me and you as a human being, so called person as they call it. we may not be moving around like that. We
It,
might not be moving around trading.
okay, so
I mean, unless you count trade money.
let me ask you this: people buy off Amazon all the time. Do that necessarily mean that a lot of products are coming overseas? We buy a lot of overseas products. Those products is already they're not even made in the United States. So let's ask Google, okay,
But does
how
that instant? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
products annually come from overseas? Overseas.
I don't. I mean, we know customs, right? I
Yeah,
mean, and
so
we've
how
talked about customs before, y'all, too. I
right,
mean, they got to come through customs, but that ain't us. I mean, like that's the government doing the business transaction.
but
State.
it's still
That's customs. In
right,
customs, federal a federal what organization or administration
yeah,
borders, right?
right.
Okay, so right.
Not manufactured. So when we talk about something manufactured, it's coming from overseas, so it's dealing in interstate commerce. Just because a company may have it or deal in that particular product, they don't mean they're not getting it from overseas. So it triggers the federal jurisdiction. So now, but if a product is manufactured or homegrown within that particular state, and it is shipped in that state, then that's it's still within the state guidelines. That's intrastate because it was manufactured and produced within that state. But anything that comes from another state or from overseas that triggers interstate commerce, and the federal jurisdiction is triggered.
So my question is, how do that? I didn't bring it into this country as a person. I'm just picking up. I ordered it, but I didn't bring it in, and it doesn't go through me. It goes through the United States Customs
Right,
in order to be here. So they are dealing in interstate or international commerce, if you will. The
right.
the the federal government, not you. So I'm saying, going back to the 14th Amendment,
Okay,
like,
let's go.
no, I'm just saying, like, how is that? Because you tying all this saying that, hey, we not U.S. citizens based on the 14th Amendment. You saying we not U.S. citizens, right?
Right. What I'm saying is there are certain things or thresholds that need to be met, and by them not being met, you can say that it's an impossibility for you to fulfill the contract. So if we look at, um, let's go back to the doctrine of impossibility under contract law. Let me see, where is it at? What do I do with that?
Y'all, please smash that like button, hit the notification, go back and check out some of these old videos we did.
Let me see. Let me go back.
We going in.
Let me see
I'm
where
just
is
trying to
it.
put a pin. I'm trying to pin him, y'all. I'm trying to pin him to it though, like, because me
Yeah,
and
pin me
him
to
have
the
these
wall.
conversations. We had these conversations, man.
Pin me to the
So,
wall. I want to be pinned. I like the challenge. So let's go. Impossibility of a contract. Impossible contracts, which one will be deemed void in the eye of the law, or which the performance will be excused, or such contracts as cannot be performed either because of the nature of the obligation undertaken or because of some supervening event which rendered the performance of the obligation either physically or legally impossible. Impossibility is of the following several sorts. an act in physically impossible when it comes to contrary to the course of nature, such as impossibility may be either absolute, um, i.e., impossible in any case to stop the Earth rotation, or relative, sometimes called impossibility in fact, arising from the circumstances of the case. For A to make a payment to B, he is being deceased person. The latter classes belonging what is sometimes called practice, practice, practical impossibility, which exists when an act can be done but only at excessive or unreasonable cost. An act is legally or judicially impossible when a rule of law makes it impossible to do it. E.g., A, to make a valid will before his majority. This class of acts must be not be confounded with those which are possible, although forbidden by law, as committed a theft. An act is logically impossible when it is contrary to the nature of the transaction, as where A gives property to B expressly for his own benefit on the condition that he transfer it to C. Sweet.
All right, all right, y'all. So that's a mouthful. So, my brother, you're trying to say that the 14th Amendment is an act of impossibility?
I'm saying based upon the nature of things, the 14th Amendment had other tentacles or apparatuses that needed to be met to qualify its standing.
Okay. So, you, yeah, I don't know what you were just talking. Look, look, I'm saying this. You said that it's a possibility to uh, fulfill what the 14th Amendment is saying.
Right.
So you're saying that you can't be a 14th Amendment citizen anyway.
I'm saying that there is a federal threshold that need to be met to qualify the 14th Amendment standing.
Okay. And you're saying that it doesn't hold up to that threshold.
And I'm saying, yeah, there are certain things that's
Right.
not being done based
Like
upon
what?
the application.
Like what?
Um, like I said, you didn't take an oath for office.
How you didn't
Um,
take a oath? What about selective service?
I know we talked about that,
I
but
know we have, but we ain't talked about
so,
it out here or talk about it. That's what
right.
I'm, we dropping them
So
down. I'm saying,
right, we can. So we there has to be a written statement of fact. I mean, just like when you take the oath, I mean, there has to be determining factors. There has to be a written statement by you
okay.
stating stating that, and they have to have evidence, proof of claim that you did such or took such action. So the
So
evidence, proof of that you got to ask for the proof of the claim.
okay, so you saying the selective service doesn't um, make it's not possible that they haven't made a claim? Like you haven't? You telling me that when we sign up to selective service, y'all, when we have they force us to sign up for the military, and you don't even have to be a citizen of the United States for them to do that. They
True.
make you sign up. They make you sign this document that you pledging
They
to.
say you can go to jail if you don't sign this document.
That's what I'm saying. So by threat, duress, and coercion, that you are forced to sign for selective service, which is basically the military, and you're saying that I made a pledge to my country to serve and protect it by all means. That you got the right to draft me in regards to that. So you telling me that there's no hinting or anything that could be possibly contained as an oath in the selective service.
Okay, so normally when people take an oath of office, right? They normally sign off, and they it's a statement saying that they agree and that they consented to all of the things associated with that, um, and all of that. I don't remember seeing all of that. I remember getting a card and having to sign a document. I
Right.
mean, the
But
card.
do you remember? Do you remember what's on it? That's what I'm saying. Like we don't remember because
But
it's
I
been
don't
a
remember it saying all
long
of that
time
because
ago.
I don't.
It's been
But
a long time.
do,
And
do,
what do I don't remember either. I don't necessarily recall. But what I'm saying is, if they're trying to say that you need a, if you're saying that you need an oath of office as one of the requirements, I'm saying that it could be possibly found in the selective service, particularly among men, because women don't necessarily have to sign up for the military. But as a man, we take up some kind of pledge. Like you telling me that going to the military is not some kind of pledge to a particular country.
of course, you pledge. You
I mean,
sign.
so when I'm saying it, I'm saying pledge or oath is some kind of could be could be the oath that they're talking about. Okay, or the census for that matter. Like when you do a census, what is that constitute in its entirety? Like when you
Yeah.
do the census, yeah, like these are some. That's what I'm saying. Like we know that they slick with stuff.
So that's something that we have to evaluate to determine the accuracy of the application, to determine the truthfulness and see if it applies. And if it's impossible under such circumstances.
I'm with
So
you, brother. I'm with you.
so now we got to look at, um okay, can you reside in a zone? You got to get permission to reside in a zone as a state or federal agent. So, like I
So
said, you have to be a state or federal agent to be able to be doing anything in that zone. So, where is your approval letter that they gave you to say, hey, you're a federal agent or state agent?
So when you get don't like when you get a social security number or something, are you not an agent or like don't they label you an agent, the IRS?
Do
Like
they
what is your
label?
status with the IRS? What is
They
your stat? I mean, like
the
I just
IRS
remember
the IRS. Okay, so let's look up the scope of the IRS. What is the Internal Revenue?
I just remember was it Keith one like Keith saying that we all employees, right? Did he say we were federal employees?
Yeah. Duties of the
Yeah.
IRS include providing tax assistance to taxpayers, pursuing and resolving instances of erroneous or fraudulent tax filings, and overseeing various benefit programs, including Affordable Care Act, Internal Revenue Service, Constitute on Constitution Avenue in Washington D.C. So this is what they're saying that their scope is. It says the agency, its mission, and statutory authority. Statutory authority is the IRS is organized to carry out the responsibilities of the Secretary of Treasury under Section 7801 of the Internal Revenue Code. The Secretary has full authority to administer and enforce the internal revenue laws and has the power to create agencies to enforce these laws. The IRS was created based on this legislative grant. Section 7803 of the Internal Revenue Code provides the appointment of the Commissioner of Internal Revenue to administer and supervise the execution and application. Here we go. Once again, application of the Internal Revenue laws. Starting always with it says application, application.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So when we talk about the 14th Amendment going back, and we're looking at the things in the application. So if we know the United States is born, I mean, it's a corporation. So if we take this and say form instead of born, what it mean in all actuality is that how could they form a baby a corporation?
How?
Right.
I mean,
Do the parents give the state the right to contract like, babies can contract to do movies and stuff?
I mean, a parent can, contract on their behalf. I mean, they're considered a minor, and they're not of the age and maturity to contract on their own,
Right.
right?
Right. So the parent is contract. So who is
Right.
liable for the contract?
And what they call the parent? They call the parent the agent
Right, the agent.
for the
So
state. Anytime we see the word agent, y'all, that's usually saying that they working for the state. And I don't mean like, but I mean like it's in any capacity.
they call the mother.
That's usually somebody who works for the state.
They call the mother the informant. Who are you informing? Informing.
Yeah, they call the mother an informant.
Yeah, the informants work for a particular institution. If I'm an informant, like if you think about somebody who's an informant, right? They normally under the guise of the police acting as a tattletale for the police. They're an agent of the police. They're an extension of the
That's exactly, exactly an agent. An
right.
informant is nothing but an agent.
Exactly.
I mean, I talk about the ministers. Ministers are agents of the state because they go back and tell the state your business. You get
Exactly.
married, you go get married, they go tell the state.
They're gonna tell the
So
state.
they,
They
yeah,
have duties. They have to tell the state, and they have to file what? They have to file the paperwork with the state.
yeah, yeah.
So those are duties, right? So the Supreme Court says where there is no duties and obligations, there's only exemptions. So you either got a duty or an obligation. The duty gonna come in the form of some type of military, and then the obligation is going to come in as some type of employee or trustee. Um, and they tell you in the IRS code that you owe a debt to the United States once you get the Social Security number. So let's go here.
So right, Social Security number is a social insurance number, yo. You looking up what now? Social Security number? Um,
The Palms,
yeah, but I mean, like, what was you looking up in particular? I was
the
trying to
word.
remember. Like,
So this is under 20 CFR. This is in the Palms, and in the you means an individual who owes a debt to the United States within the scope of this subchapter.
the word "you." Look, that's heavy.
You see this? What special definition applies to this subchapter? We, our, or us means the Social Security Administration. You means an individual who owes
They're
a
very particular.
to the United States with the scope of this. So, what is the United States? The United States means the continental United States, Alaska, Hawaii, and the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. So, what is the continental United States?
Right, the continental, you know, that's
The
all
con-
land, all the 48 states.
any state of the North America continent,
Check.
right? So, I'm just saying, when you understand this stuff, you can start being able to piece together the riddle to break down more of the commonality of the language and the construction to dispel some of these theories and practice of application of law because they're using presumptive jurisdiction because you need to understand it. So let's look even at presumptive jurisdiction. Let me go over here. Let me show you something under that. Let me see, did I pull that up to, no, this is,
Sister asked too, does voting fall in that category? She asked that question a while ago, so
do voting count in what category? What does she mean?
I'm not. I'm trying to. She probably was asking it at a certain time. Like we just get to the question. So, um, if you still on there, Phyllis, maybe clear it up and re-ask the question.
So let's look at the word presumption as it relates to everything. It says a fact, a inference, affirmative or disaffirmative of the truth or falsehood of any proposition or fact drawn by a process of probable reasoning in the absence of actual certainty of its truth or falsehood until such certainty can be ascertained. I want
Okay.
y'all to take a good look at this. Can y'all see that?
Yeah.
Right? It says of a fact and interference, affirmative or disformative of the truth or falsehood of any proposition or fact drawn by a process of probable reasoning in the absence of actual certainty of its truth or falsehood until such certainty can be ascertained. So presumptive jurisdiction, they saying to you, pretty much, we don't know if it's true or false until you can prove otherwise. We're gonna believe this until you can prove otherwise.
Facts. Facts.
So it's
It's fact.
not
It's
based
that, and that,
on
and look, and right now, go ahead. Go ahead.
now break it down.
Now, I just wanted to say, like, this go back to like a lot of times when we go into court and these Moors are going in there arguing treaty, they're under the presumption of a black Negro in color, and when they go in there trying to bring treaty rights or whatnot, it has not actually been confirmed that these things they're saying are true. So therefore, they stay under the presumption. Okay, that's all. That's all I'm saying.
Because guess what? They got a record of everybody saying that you're black. Your mama signed off saying might be black. Your daddy signed off you're black. You go to school, they got you listed as black. And when you
When you
got
get
and
when you
when you
get
turn
stopped by the police
they,
put you down as black.
right, and they
They
tell
make
you,
they make a presumption.
and this is what it says. This is what's so crazy. And it says a disformative of the truth or falsehood. It can be a falsehood of any proposition, of any proposition or fact drawn by a process of probable reasoning. So I
That
can
means
see you
everything.
walking out the store as a black man. The store owner say I've been robbed. They can automatically assume that you are the person that robbed the store. And the owner don't have to say nothing. And the police can take action and shoot you and kill you and get away with it because he was working in his scope of duty. He made a what?
Right.
He made a he made a proposition of fact drawn by a process through probable reasoning.
Yeah. So okay, sister,
So
she
that's another
clarified
one.
her question.
Probable cause, probable reasoning.
Let
Okay,
me.
what you say?
She was saying that she has does voting fall in the category? You speaking of the military and services?
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I thought so as well. I thought so as well. So okay, my brother.
that falls into your citizenship and all of that because now listen to this. Probabilistic reasoning is a way of knowledge representation where we apply the concept of probability to indicate the uncertainty in knowledge. In probabilistic reasoning, we combine probability theory with logic to handle the uncertainty.
That's deep.
You see what I'm saying? So let's look up probable. Supported by evidence strong enough to establish presumption but not proof.
Right, supported by evidence strong enough to establish presumption, but not proof. A hypothesis, basically, a probable hypothesis, as it says, but it's not
Probable
based on
proof.
proof, but not proof. No proof, just presumption.
This presumption.
Right, right. So, yeah, man, like these definitions. Shoot, like our people, a lot of people don't even understand basic spelling, like basic spelling, let alone legalese, let alone
So
like.
why is we they call codes? This they call United States Code. They written in code.
So
So
it's a
let's
constitution. It's a constitution written in legalese.
of course.
So let me ask you this though, because you said that the United States is a corporation. Now, I'm not against that statement, of course, but my question is that when we look at what was written in the 14th Amendment was written, it was passed and ratified in 1868. And they said that the United States didn't incorporate until 1871. So that's like 3 years difference, right?
Right.
So is that, would you say that 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 was their original idea to create the corporate fiction in that way, or was that something that uh,
That I think that
came out of the thought of people being able to find a way to get around things?
I think that was through through the evolution of the industrial complex that when the United States industrialized and through the Reconstruction period, they just utilized some of these concepts and principles that they was able to utilize so that they can keep people confused about what's really going on to usurp their rights. Because if I keep you ignorant to what's going on, you would never know what questions are asked, or you would never know what your rights were. So if we look up a code, right, and I'm breaking this down into this, it says a system of words, letters, figures, or other symbols substituted for other words, letter, etc., especially for the purpose of secrecy. They tell you American cracked their diplomatic code, sending message in code. So they're writing everything in code. Ohio revised codes, United States codes, codes of federal regulation. They're written in code.
Right.
Why they're written in code, right? Why are they written in code?
You're saying the code is a form,
They're,
so the code is a form of secrecy.
of
And
course,
okay, break it down, because I know where you're going with this. Why are the codes a form of secrecy?
because it's a part of maintaining their institution. It's about it's written in secrecy to maintain the military structure. When everybody know your business, you got no business. So when they write it in code and they hide the true definition or interpretation, then no one can figure it out. The whole purpose of that is to maintain their strength and power. Secrecy is a part of, of
Who
it's
writes
very
code? That's what I'm saying. But think about this. Okay, I'm breaking this down. Who writes codes? Right? Like
military. It's
the
all
policies that are written that we have are fundamentally written by lawyers, right?
right, right,
Okay, so what I'm saying is lawyers are a particular uh, organization. They are secret organizations. They once you become a member of the bar, you have certain privileges, and they take an oath. Okay, so with that, they carry the secrets. They are the ones that understand what these words mean.
right.
So I'm just relating it to the fact that when you breaking down the word code, it's because the code is written by it's written in secrecy by legalese, by lawyers who practice legalese, who use these terms to portray things and talk over our head, right? Because we
Right.
don't even like they. It's like this: a code, like for example, black. People use codes all the time. Um, when we're talking to each other, we might talk in a code. We might say like brothers when they doing something. Like if they on the phone and they think you're getting bugged, they use words like, "Hey, did y'all have a party last night? Was it heavy?" It's like they talking in code. They talking about did you get the dope, or did you do this or that? But they're talking in a code. They're using English, but they're using English in a way that is not the way that you can interpret it. So I'm saying, in the same regard, you got lawyers who take these words that we normally use and they construe them to mean something else when they're talking in a legal courtroom. Okay,
This is
that's
for
all.
right to laws. We talked about that
Uh,
last time. When we was talking about the UCCCCs, Uniform Law Commission.
right.
These
I mean, they got code. It's so many codes everywhere though. I mean, you got the Uniform Commercial Code. Remember that video like we showed? It's all these codes, all these statutes and codes that they're using.
this is the organization that write all the laws, the Uniform Law Commission.
Right. That's what we talked about last time. So it's like y'all understand that these words and these law, like we really should, like you said, you be using these words. So you telling me that the Constitution doesn't apply not just to us melanated people, but it doesn't apply to so-called white people as well?
Now, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Don't get this. I
So
ain't put
what's
that.
the difference? Okay, okay. Hey, so this will be the last thing we get into. So what is the difference between them, between the
You broke up.
Albion
You went out. You went
and the
out.
dethroned Moor, so called?
You went out.
Am I
You
there?
got. We
Can you hear
state
me?
your question. You went out. It like you had a long segment of going out.
Okay, can you hear
Yeah.
me now? Okay. What was I saying? What was the last thing you heard?
You was saying what is the difference between the Albions and some of the dethroned Moors? What's the difference?
Yeah, yeah. What's the difference between a dethroned Moor, aka Black Negro Color, and the Albion when it comes to the 14th Amendment?
Well, the Albion is they are the ones who are the true poppers, right? This is where the word informist proper come from. Informist proper, a form of propers, right? These are the people. They're the true. These are people are the true peasants. These are the peasants. Most of them, you had the Irish, you had the Germans, you had the British, you had those who broke away. They came over here, and they were the ones who was of low status. So so a lot of the white people think when they talk about lost at sea, right? They think they're talking about them when they say, "Oh, we dealing in admiralty law," and they saying that we lost at sea. No, they talking about the Moors. The difference between me, us, and them. We our forefathers and foremothers created treaties. We were a part of a nation that dealt with them under treaties, under contracts. They are foreign. They are subjects of these people. These people are subjects of the British, the Irish, the German, the Italians, all of these
When
different,
one of the Dutch,
the Dutch, right? So you got to remember the Irish and the Italians. They came over here as really nobodies. They were pretty much slaves, right? They was pretty much on the slave status almost. They just had a little bit more rights. So a lot of the Albions believe that they have, but there's no treaties that they can turn to. We have treaties that through our melanin, through our connection, through our bloodline, through the landmass, we know that we have treaties with uh, as families with these European nations. They are subjects. They don't have treaties. They can't say they are associated with that. So Moors have treaties that turned into federal statutes that are been adopted under the statutes of law, in which we can try to apply those treaty benefits.
now what you got to say? Because there's a lot of people out here, man. We got a lot of trolls that tell us that how are we as so-called black, like in our status here in America, how the treaty apply to us? Because for some reason they think it applies to only, I guess, Arabs or something.
Because a lot of people don't understand who were the original people in the context of history. So they've been miseducated, and through this diversion of miseducation, people don't understand who we were in nature as it relates to being in history, who we were. we had we've been the vast majority of people serving this planet through through all the different things that we perform, and we settle in many different places, and we are the originators of certain identities in which other people later on started classifying themselves as, in which they took on these identities to usurp our rights and then to come in to create a stronghold in those territories. So a lot of people just they don't know history. So they going to, of course, they're going to say all types of stuff when you've been taught that Christopher Columbus found America, discovered America, and you've been brainwashed to believe all of these things in history. That's not true, and you've been they use the education system as an art of war to keep you in a spell of hypnotism, of being hypnotized, so that you'll keep saying and doing these things over and over, so that you won't never know the truth to be able to challenge or stand on some rights as it relates to treaty.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, man, I think we had enough, brother. Like we was going in, and it gives us time for everybody to digest what we were serving. So um, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Please check out the other videos. Please like this video and subscribe. Okay, hit the like button, man. We need as many likes as possible to help promote the channel, right? So please do that, and check out our information. Check out our books on Amazon, and check out indigenousservices.webs.com. And if you need our information, we'll have our numbers in the description. So other than that, my brother, I appreciate you once again for another dope show.
The
Dropping these
dynamic
dropping
dude.
dropping these jewels, man. Dropping these jewels like paraphernalia. Uh, so that's it, y'all. Appreciate y'all. Peace and love. Check you in the next video. Tuta Nana.
Tutanana.